Welcome back. Chapter 20, Ruth. I peer out the window into the inky night, wrapping my arms around myself as I search the shadows. I scan the parking lot 4 stories down as if I might actually see an old Corvette there, engine rumbling, James behind the wheel. There's nothing amiss I can put my finger on, yet I feel deeply restless. It's the 4th time I looked out the living room window in the past hour. James isn't coming for us, I tell myself. Catherine and I are safe. I draw the blinds closed and tell myself I'll keep them that way until morning. I walk into the kitchen, the tile floor cool against the sole of my bare feet, and fill the tea kettle. I take my favorite chunky mug out of the cabinet, the one Catherine made for me in junior high school art class, and drop in a bag of chamomile tea. The streak of the kettle a couple of minutes later caused me to flinch, even though I've been anticipating the noise. I fill up my mug and inhale the fragrant steam, then carry it into the living room and set it down on a coaster on the coffee table. I check the location of Catherine's phone, and once I confirm she is still at work, I walk over to the front door and engage the chain lock. No one else has a key to our place other than the landlord, who isn't permitted to enter without advance notice. But I can't allow even a minuscule risk of anyone surprising me during the next hour. What you about to do? I'm about to do the things I've been dreading, not just all night, but for the past 4 years. The one streaming channel we subscribe to offer reruns of true crime program. I watch a lot of those kinds of shows because you never know when something you learn might come in handy. But there was one episode I couldn't bear to watch. It's the segment about Coach's murder. It first aired 4 years ago on the 20th anniversary of the crime. Wow. I can't afford to ignore it any longer. I got rid of Coach's Franklin watch many years ago. Goodness, I was hoping she got rid of it. But I swear I still hear it sometimes, like when I catch the clacking of a train moving down the track or notice someone rhythmically tapping their foot, tick-tock, tick-tock. It's a warning. My time is almost up. I use the remote control to bring up the program. I'm too agitated to sit, so I stand in front of the TV. The first minute or so is an introduction. Eerie music played while credits appear on the screen, along with sapphire photographs. There's one I've never seen of James at around the age I knew him, 19. The background is blurred, so I can't identify where the picture was taken. Then my school picture from junior year slowly appears next to James. In it, I'm smiling and my waist-length hair is draped over one shoulder. Our photos drop off the screen and are replaced by several of Coach, including one of him standing in front of the Pons team while our squad posed in pyramid formation. I'm at the end of the middle row, and a red circle is drawn around my head so viewers can identify me. My gut clenches so tight it's painful, but I force myself to keep watching. It's only going to get worse. The host begins in a deep, somber voice. Ava Morales was a junior at Oak Hill High in Townsend, Maryland. Maryland, y'all, from Maryland. A good student, pretty, vivacious, from a family with deep ties to the community. James Bates was several years older, with a far more mysterious and unsettling background. More photographs appear, one of our schools sealed off with yellow police tape and several from Coach's funeral, as the host described the crime scene and interviews the lead detective from the case. I recoil a moment later when a familiar face pops onto the screen. It's Brittany. She must have had plastic surgery. Her lips were never that full when she was young. She looks almost exactly like her mother. Apple from the tree, I think, remembering the line I written in my journal. The host lob her a question. Can you tell us about Ava Morales? And Brittany is off and running, talking about how we've been besties since we were 7 and how she was present the night I met James at the restaurant where we worked. I knew something was wrong with him right away, Brittany confides. All of us girls thought so. But not Ava, prompts the host. Brittany shakes her head vigorously, her big gold hoop earrings smacking her rosy cheeks. I guess being in love can make people stupid. My hands curls into fists. They don't relax until Brittany's vapid face is off the screen. James' mother declined to be interviewed. The host somberly reports, so did my father and Timmy. I began to pace, keeping my eyes fixed on the screen. I know what is coming next. I read about it during one of my online searches long ago. It was a good thing the library had a little trash can by the computer station because I didn't make it to the bathroom in time to throw up. James Bates' stepfather could not be interviewed. A meaningful pause. He was beaten to death 6 months before the Oak Hill High murder. What? Oh, a photograph of James' stepfather appears on the screen. He was a medium-sized man with blonde hair and a hard line for a mouth. Troy Gaskin was attacked with a blunt object one night as he worked alone in his garage, changing the tire of his car. Authorities suspect the murder weapon was a lug nut wrench found next to the body, but no one was ever charged in the crime. Then, the weapon was wiped clean of fingerprints. I begin to hyperventilate. I blindly fumble for the pause button on the remote control. My instincts are screaming at me to run like I have so many times before. I pinch the inside of my wrist as hard as I can. The sharp burst of pain distracts me enough to interrupt the surge of panic. We're safe. I say the words out loud, but I don't believe it. I haven't believed it for one single day of the past 24 years. I walk to the kitchen cupboard and pull out the bottle of Russian vodka I brought last year. I pour a shot and drink it down in one swallow, the burn racing down my throat. My heartbeat finally slows. I pick up the remote again and force myself to press play. There's more background on Coach Franklin's life. He received accolades from our former school principal and from his brother, who talks about what a great guitar player Coach was. An old video of Coach strumming Eric Clapton's song Bad Love plays. Your love will keep me alive, Coach sings. The video fades into blackness and is replaced by one of James. He is seated in the courtroom wearing a suit and tie I didn't know he possessed, beside a man who must be his lawyer. Oh, they court James. Daniel Franklin's battered body was found by the night janitor who arrived at the school shortly after the attack. He was barely clinging to life and was taken to Mercy Hospital by ambulance. A short while later, an officer on routine patrol spotted a black Corvette idling in front of a closed restaurant. Upon approaching the driver, the officer noticed blood on his sleeve that was later identified as belonging to Daniel Franklin. James Bates was captured at 12:15 a.m., 15 minutes after he was at the place that she was supposed to meet him at. Whoop! 15 minutes past our meeting time of midnight. James was caught while waiting for me. The video camera recording of the courtroom shows 19-year-old James standing up. The judge asks the jury if they have reached a verdict. We have, Your Honor, the jury woman says, her voice sounding far away and tiny. The camera zooms in on James' face as the verdict is read. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Andrew Bates, guilty of the charges of murder in the first degree. Oh, he went down for it. James doesn't break down or say a word. He doesn't move a muscle. A jump cut to a photograph of me alone on the front steps of Oak Hill High, holding a copy of Romeo and Juliet. I remember that day. I didn't want to eat in the lunchroom, so I took my Diet Coke and peanut butter sandwich and went outside to read a few pages. One of the student photographers who worked for our school paper must have snapped the shot without me noticing. A voiceover with Coach singing the lyrics from another line and Clapton's song play, No More Bad Love. The host appeared back on the screen. Ava Morales' blue Dodge Dart was discovered in the parking lot of a Denny's restaurant the day after the attack. She has never been located. Brittany is back. I know, deep in my heart, that James killed Ava. Brittany's eyes welled up. And I swear to you, he killed my cat too. A neighbor saw his car on my street the night Smokey disappeared. She uses her fingertips to swipe beneath her eyes. James is a psycho. Everyone knows he murdered his stepfather and coach. The host interjects. Bate was never charged or convicted of killing his stepfather. Oh, come on. That's only because there wasn't enough evidence and James claimed he was asleep in the house. And why wouldn't Ava come home if she was alive? I'm telling you, James killed her and hid her body somewhere it could never be found. That's one theory. Another is that Ava was an accomplice. The former lead detective on the case replaced Brittany on camera. The printed words below him identify him as a retired homicide detective. Ava Morales has a motive. She was angry. She was cut from Palm Squad that very afternoon. Daniel Franklin had humiliated her. He emailed the other members of the team to deliver the news just hours before he was attacked. The host frowns. It seemed like a big leap to say a teenage girl would kill her coach over something like that. I'm not saying she didn't have help. Could someone as young as Ava really go into hiding for this long? The retired detective shrugged. Sure, people do it all the time. Back then, it was a lot easier to evade. We didn't have facial recognition devices. Surveillance cameras were much rarer. Do you know how many people are missing in this country alone? Hundreds? The host guessed. Thousands. The host nods somberly. If Ava Morales is out there somewhere, here is what she might look like today. An age progression photo of me comes onto the screen. My hair is much longer than I currently wear it, and my face is fuller. It doesn't look too much like me, I tell myself. The program ends with a close-up video of James back on the day he was found guilty of murder. James Bates has been behind bars in a maximum security prison for 2 decades, but he will be up for parole in 4 years, shortly after his 43rd birthday, and legal experts we have consulted believe his chance for release are good. James' face grows bigger as the camera moves in. I can see comb marks in his sandy hair and a tiny shaven cut near his Adam's apple. Bate pled not guilty at his trial, but he never spoke in his own defense. He has never granted a single interview or apparently even uttered a word about the crime. James turned his head slightly. It appears as if he's looking directly at me. His attorneys claim he has been a model prison. Bates has completed several college-level computer courses while in the Maryland Correction Center in Baltimore. Computers. His attorney will likely use this as evidence on how Bates is determined to lead a productive life and obtain gainful employment if he is allowed to reintegrate into society. James' gentle, calm eyes are all I can see. Bates reportedly spends his free time in prison either in the weight room or using a pencil and scrap paper to draw. Most of his sketches, according to the prison sources, look exactly like Ava Morales. A shudder racks my body, as it should, honey. James waited for me that night. He has been waiting for me all these years. I turn off the TV and stand in the void of sudden silence. 4 months ago, almost to this day, the parole board determined that James should be free. I learned about it during one of my library searches. James wasn't immediately released, but he will be any minute now. It's why I go to the library so often and search for new news items about him. I need to know when he'll get out of jail. The day when James will come for me is drawing closer. I try to convince myself otherwise, and sometimes, especially when the sun rises over the fresh day, I almost manage to believe it won't happen. But in the darkest moment of night, I know the truth. I didn't grow up in Virginia like Catherine believes. Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, where she wants to work, is a short drive from my family home, from the neighborhood where my father and Timmy still live. I knew it. It's close to the restaurant where James worked and to my old high school. I might have been able to accept that risk if I was merely weighing it against Catherine's excitement over her new job. But Hopkins is less than 4 miles away from the prison where James is still incarcerated while he fulfills the conditions of parole, including establishing a housing plan and completing certain online courses all prisoners must take once they've won parole. I knew that was the reason. He could walk through the gates at any minute with his new computer skills and the fury that has been mounting inside him ever since I left him alone to be caught. What has nearly 25 years in a maximum security prison done to a man who was already enchanted by violence? It is almost unimaginable. How far would you go to protect the person you love most in the world? I have gone to a place so dark and bleak I barely recognize myself. But I know one thing for certain, I did it out of love. Maybe I made the wrong choices, but I was desperate and I couldn't find any other option. I chose to lie to Catherine when I told her how my mother died many years ago. Oh my gosh. The real story is that my mother plowed into a tree while driving drunk. The obituary writer implied the accident was a result of her grief over her lost daughter and the question lingering about my disappearance. That's a tidy, tragic narrative, but it isn't anywhere close to the truth. Here is my core truth, my reason for moving forward every single day. From the moment I learned I was pregnant, I burned with a purpose every bit as strong as the rage inside of James. I would do anything to protect my child, even fake Alzheimer's disease. Jack, you owe. What I did is abhorrent, unforgivable. There is nothing anyone could say that could make me feel worse than I already do. But I swear on my life, I did it to save Catherine. If Catherine believes I'm sick, I can keep her close. I can keep working to prevent James from learning about her existence and from coming after her, or at least be there to protect her if he does. Telling Catherine the truth about my past is not an option. If she learns who her father is, her core sense of self-worth will be shattered. She will never be the same. I've thought about this for more hours than I can count. And the conclusion I've come to is that this way will be brutal in the short term, but it will never serve her best in the long run. Alzheimer's is the perfect disguise for me. Unlike cancer or other illnesses I considered, it's challenging to diagnose. I hope I won't need to keep up this charade for long. I'm counting on the fact that James won't be able to reintegrate into society. He will either kill again or be killed. Violence is too seductive for him. He can't stay away from it. When James is dead and back in prison, I will conjure a story about learning about Alzheimer's diagnosis was incorrect and say a serious hormonal imbalance was to blame for my memory fog. I'll blame it on a mix-up at the lab, and Catherine and I will celebrate our new lease on life together. If she wants to get tested to be absolutely certain I don't carry the familiar gene of Alzheimer's, I will. Of course, the news will be good. I'll do whatever I can to restore her peace of mind. I'll help Catherine reassemble her plans to move to Baltimore or wherever else she wants as quickly as possible. And even though I will miss her as deeply as if a piece of me has been torn away, I will celebrate the fact that she is on the right path. But I also know, deep in my gut, our future will not be so simple. James is going to look for me as soon as he is released. When he finds me, he will also find Catherine. All he will need to do is look into her eyes to know she is his daughter. Okay, that is the end of chapter 20. I knew it. I knew that the reason why she sabotaged Catherine's life was because she was entirely too close to her hometown. Because I did the math and it was just like, it was all in the area. She couldn't travel too far. And then I also knew this is for Jack, that she was faking. So guess what? I won the bet. I won the bet. I won the bet. I won the bet. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. I shall see y'all in the next chapter, which is chapter 21. Bye.